Thailand. A flooded cave. 12 young boys and their soccer coach trapped somewhere inside. With monsoon season just beginning and water levels rising, time is running out.
They were moving so much water out of there. But the problem was it's like turning the faucet on and trying to siphon water out at the same time.
As an international team of elite divers searches miles of submerged passages, the whole world watches in suspense and wonders,
in Thailand, there is a very concerning situation.
Can the boys still be alive?
It came back to some pretty horrifying news.
But then,
how many of you? 13. Brilliant.
now an impossible decision looms. How to bring 12 children out
The only option we had was to go with the diving option.
through some of the most dangerous diving conditions in the world.
Even the professional cave divers said this is some of the sketchiest diving they've ever done.
You couldn't see your finger in front of your face until you touched your mask.
A desperate mission begins.
Panic usually leads to instant death.
Thai Cave Rescue. It was a nightmare that gripped the world. A stunning display of courage and technical prowess in the face of life-threatening danger. The miraculous rescue of these 12 young boys and their soccer coach from one of the deadliest environments on Earth, a flooded cave.
You probably feel like it's the trailer for a Hollywood movie, right? Okay, well, for those of you who don't know me, some of you may remember me from last year from the 112 Awards. I'm Jennifer Baker. I'm a journalist and I cover EU affairs and especially tech stuff. But this morning we're going to talk about that amazing rescue, and you saw him very briefly, but we are lucky enough today to be able to welcome Ivan Karadzic, who was one of the divers who was taking part in that really amazing rescue. So please, put your hands together. Thank you very much, Ivan, for being here.
Welcome.
I'm sure everyone in this room remembers the whole news frenzy and everyone watching on their phones and their devices what was going on in Thailand. But when did you first hear about it? Was it on the news like the rest of us?
Yes, like everybody else, I heard about the situation from the Thai news. I was in Thailand at the time and heard about it, I think, late afternoon on the 23rd of June.
And what was your first thought?
I was actually sitting with some good friends preparing a cave dive, so it was quite obvious. We were sitting in our equipment, ready to dive, so our first thought was, let's see if we can go up and assist in some way.
And you were sort of qualified to do that because you've been diving a very long time. Tell me a bit about your background, how long you've been diving, how you got into it, and a little bit what brought you to Thailand as well.
Well, what brought me to Thailand? I went to Thailand like many others. I went there on a holiday in 2006, and I fell in love with both Thailand and I fell in love with my current girlfriend, and that made me stay in Thailand. I did some diving in Denmark before when I was very young, but I learned to dive in Thailand where I live today. Got a job as a dive instructor, and then one day took the other, and now 13 years later I am still actually exactly the same place where I learned to dive.
And cave diving is particularly dangerous. Explain to those of us like myself who can't dive and the idea of going underwater and not having air is absolutely terrifying. Tell me about the added dangers and what you need to bear in mind with cave diving.
Well, cave diving is technical diving. It's a specific form of diving. One of the biggest difference between recreational or normal diving and technical diving, and therefore cave diving, is that you do not have a direct access to the surface. A diver that is out diving on a reef, if they have an issue or if they want to abort their dive, they can simply just swim back to the surface. Obviously, if you are a mile inside a cave, that is just not an option. So that's what makes cave diving and technical diving a bit more risky than recreational diving.
And I mean, this terrain that the boys were trapped in, did you know it well before?
I've never seen that cave. It was the first time I was in Chiang Rai. The Tham Luang cave is not a cave that us cave divers have any specific interest in. As you saw in the video, the visibility in the cave, the conditions in the cave are just too tough for any kind of enjoyment. The caves that we normally go into are beautiful, with extremely good visibility, and Tham Luang is not.
And so presumably, normally you're used to diving with very experienced divers if you're going into dangerous places.
Yes, that is correct. When we go inside the cave, in most cases we dive with certified divers, people that have been trained, but we also train new or experienced divers in cave diving. Okay,
so you've seen on the news, these boys are trapped, you think maybe we can help. What happened next? How did you become involved? What did you do? You know, who did you speak to?
Well, cave diving, as you probably can guess, it's not a big sport. We are not that many around the world that do this kind of diving. And in Thailand, I think we are about 50 in entire Thailand. And many of us know each other through network and so on. So when we saw the news, obviously different messenger groups and social media groups started to get very active, of people saying, hey, what can we do? And in the very early days, what we did was, myself and other cave divers, we started by sending up specialized equipment to the area in the hope that the divers up there could take use of that. And after a few days, I think there was like 2 or 3 days, when the rescue efforts in the dry part of the cave turned out not to be successful, there was nobody there, then the call came from the officials that capable divers were very welcome to get up there. And myself and some friends, we bought our tickets and flew up there and offered our help.
And how was it coordinated? Who was, making the decisions about when you go in and how long you spend and how this whole search and rescue was managed?
Well, the responsibility fell under the Royal Thai Navy. They were leading the efforts, and there was many teams. Obviously, from the news, most of the spotlight was put on the divers, but there was, I think, something like 8,000 volunteers up there: engineers, medics, people making food, everything. There was high-speed internet set up, so it was not only divers. There was, I think, about 8,000 volunteers up there, and lots of officials from the Thai Navy and military.
Now, we know the boys had been trapped in there for about 10 days when they were finally discovered. How did that feel? Tell me, how does the message spread? I mean, presumably there was a great feeling of celebration when you found them alive.
It was a fantastic feeling knowing that all 13 people were alive. There's no doubt that many of us, when we went up there initially, some of us might be looking at it, this was a recovery mission, and it's much more comfortable to be part of a rescue mission, rescuing people and taking them up alive, than it would have been if it had been a body recovery mission. So knowing that the boys and the coach were still alive gave us a lot of inspiration, a lot of hope, and it was absolutely great news. Yeah.
And how many days had you personally spent on the ground there before they were found?
I spent, before they were found, I came actually the same day they were found, so only about 1 day.
So you hadn't had too many depressing moments?
No, I was, until that point, I was like most of you, I was following it through the media, and so when I came up there late that night, the same day we arrived, luckily the 2 of the English divers were successful in making their way all the way to the position where the kids were.
Now, we saw in the video that the caves, I mean, it looks, as I'm not an expert in cave diving, I can't even dive, but it looked very scary, very dark. I mean, communication must have been extremely difficult. I mean, how much did you rely on sort of technical solutions or new technologies in that sort of way?
Cave diving is a very low-tech sport. We rely on hand signal, touch signals, lights, and so on. So it's incredibly low tech. There are today coming more and more technology solutions, but in those situations that can be life-threatening, I trust my hands more than I will do an electric device.
Yes, I can hear everyone giggling at that. So once you've, 13 people found, amazingly still alive. Getting them out, tell me how that went.
Yeah, so that's when we got the first negative things. That's obviously after finding the kids alive. There was in the entire camp all 8,000 people, and especially the parents was very, very happy. But it's also where the reality dawned that, okay, so now we found them. How do we get them out? Even for experienced cave divers, this cave is a big challenge. And I cannot stress how big a challenge it is for people that cannot dive at all. And after the kids have been in there for 10 days, obviously their fitness levels, their strength and so on they were a bit weak. So it was a big challenge, and there was some hopelessness in the early days of the planning. How do we do that? Diving them out was one option. There was many other scenarios running in the background, other ways to potentially get the kids out, draining the cave for water, trying to drill into the cave, and many others. But obviously, as a diver, we were working on the dive solution, and the only way we saw to do it was to somehow get control of the kids. The thing that could ruin this mission totally would be panic. When you panic underwater, you rarely regain normal levels until you reach the surface, and there is no surface in the cave. So.
And do these sorts of, dangerous situations and these sorts of rescues as a result happen frequently around the world? I mean, not just Thailand.
No, they happen, but I believe this is the first time that the kids have been stuck in a cave. It's very rare that non-cave divers are getting trapped in a cave, but it does happen maybe once a year that experienced cave divers have had some kind of equipment malfunction and now they're stuck and they need to be rescued. But you're talking about people that can help themselves a lot.
And I mean, you've talked about the fact that it's a small group, relatively speaking, worldwide. Is there a real sense of community among cave divers? I mean, do you provide advice for each other? I mean, do you still talk about this Thai rescue?
Yes, there's a very close community, but also a very small community, as I said. I don't know how many cave divers are globally, probably a few thousand, I would guess, but it is a very small community. And of course, I believe that many sitting in here, until then, they didn't know that there was such a thing as cave diving. And I believe today many more people know about cave diving. And it's been a very closed society and not much interest from the outside. Most people say, why the hell would anybody do that? That is pointless to go inside this cave. And I can see from that point of view.
Well, let me ask you, why do you do it? Why the hell do you do it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think most cave divers do it because it allows you to explore. It's truly going places where no man has gone before. I have personally been in caves and stuff where there has been no people ever, and probably never will again. And it's also a challenge. It's difficult. It requires a lot of training. It requires a lot of preparation. So it's a good way to challenge yourself.
So I guess you have to be quite stubborn.
It helps.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the audience for Ivan about this rescue? Just put your hands up if you have one. No, I guess we're doing a good job here then.
Sounds like that.
So do you have any sort of advice? I mean, it was kind of a ridiculous situation that to get so many kids trapped in this cave. Could it have been foreseen? Could something have been done to avoid it?
Well, obviously, if they didn't go into the cave, that would have avoided it, but I would not encourage, I think exploring the caves is a great thing to do. These kids live in the area, and quite a few of the kids have been into the cave before, and it's their playground. It's a place where they can challenge each other. They have a a game to see who dares to run furthest into the cave, and that's just what young boys do. And so I don't think you could. No, I don't think there's any way to. People will always want to go in places where there is some adventure, and I encourage that.
Okay. Are you still in touch with the others who are involved in the rescue? You know, from a coordination point of view, did you feel that, you know, you were kind of a team along with the official sort of members of the rescue services in Thailand?
Yes, definitely. It was a big team. As I said, there was somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 volunteers and officials up there, and many of the divers that went up there are my friends from before, and obviously I got a lot of new friends that I didn't know before. And so yes, I keep in contact with not all 8,000, but many of them.
Yeah, okay. And so do you feel like that next time there's something somewhere else in the world that you would work together as a team again? You know, so a bunch of boys in South America decide to run into a cave and get trapped.
Well, I hope that's not going to happen, but if it should happen, yes, I would probably be willing to go and help, yes.
And finally then, the weather conditions that created this scenario. I mean, how do you view that? I mean, was it really a freak situation, or was it something we're going to see more often with climate change?
Well, I don't know. I know that the cave is officially open until July 1st every year. That's the closing date because of the monsoon. So the cave is not safe to enter when the monsoon starts. And they went in the 23rd, so a week before the official closing date. So yes, it was a freak change of weather. The weather changed very drastically when the boys went in there. I think they went in there about 2-3 o'clock. It was a sunny day and there was no sign of rain. And in an hour and a half, the sky opened and monsoon was there.
And have you been back to the cave since?
I have not been back to the cave since. No.
Will you?
I would love to.
You would love to. Why?
Because I like to go inside caves. It's my hobby. So I would definitely like to go inside the cave. Yes. And at the moment, it's possible. I have some friends that went back there for 2 weeks ago, and it's actually possible now to walk the entire distance. Walk, climb, crawl. So.
Okay, with lots of proper equipment and.
No, you can actually do it today without any diving equipment. The cave is muddy at the moment. It's not flooded.
Okay, so what's next for you? I mean, you're still diving in Thailand. Tell us about your plans. I mean, do you want to work on these rescues again, or is it still just? It sounds to me like it's still just for the joy and love of it for you.
Well, the rescue part is not my primary job. My primary job is to teach people to do this kind of diving, and I intend to keep doing that for a long time. But as I said before, should there be a need for the skills that I and many of the other divers have, of course, yes, I would do whatever I could to help.
And since obviously the big rescue, have you found that there's more interest in cave diving? Is there more interest in people wanting to learn these skills, maybe even from emergency services?
Yes, both from emergency services, from militaries, but also from the general public. Yes, there has been an increased interest in cave diving. And I encourage that, everybody that wants to try it. It's a wonderful sport, but it's not something you learn in a weekend.
Okay. All right. Thank you very, very much, Ivan. Thank you for
Welcome.
sharing it, and give a big round of applause. Very well done.